From Leanne. Most spiritual teachers talk about the process of enlightenment or awakening, explaining things as if we are moving towards a goal somewhere in the future. How do you bridge learning the process of living in the now without continuing to feed the idea of it being a goal somewhere in the future? So we talk about learning to live in the now, which implies time, which is not the now. That's what the question is about. The process of awakening. And does this not lead to the idea that we are moving towards a goal in the future, and thereby, of course, missing the now? That could be the case if it's misunderstood, if the process of awakening or living in the now is misunderstood, then the mind will create an imagined future self that is fully at home in the now. So one day the mind says, I will achieve the state of being fully in the now, and then I'll be awake. And of course thereby ensuring that you will never reach it. And this is the dilemma of many spiritual seekers who have been seeking for many, many years. Nobody present, of course, here. They've been seeking for many, many years and not realizing that their mind has created a state to be achieved in the future, and I am aspiring towards that state, and that state is a perfected, more enlightened or awake form of me. And so, of course, you will never reach it, because continuously you have the idea in your mind that there is a state to be reached. And so you miss continuously the only place where the state can be reached, which is now. So that's the realization then that we need to let go of this idea that awakening is a future state to be achieved. But awakening can only happen in the present moment. And there's no self that you're going to reach that is a perfected version of your present self. But whenever we talk about this, the timeless dimension of consciousness, of presence, with reference to this dimension, we are going to encounter some kind of paradox. It is true, of course, that it does take time to learn to live in the now. What that means is that continuously you're not in the now, and you lose the now, which is access to the timeless dimension of consciousness. You lose access to it, and you're back in your life situation, back in your mind, back in time, where past and future are completely obliterate the present moment. A normal state, in other words, and you become a normal human being again. Somewhat mad, which is normal. So the learning to live in the now, yes, there's a little bit of a paradox here, because it takes time to be at home in the now and to live it continuously, so that you don't lose the now anymore and go into the dream world of not now. So that you bring in the timeless dimension into the dimension of time, and when the two come together, you will encounter, when you put it into words, you'll encounter some form of paradox. That's fine, that's fine. The important thing is realizing that awakening is not about achieving some future state. The intensity needs to be directed not towards wanting to reach a future, because many spiritual seekers have great intensity. They work very hard. They might meditate 4 hours a day, and they're really determined to get there. And they never do, because their intensity flows into future, into their mind. But the same intensity can be directed into the present moment. So that is bringing together two seemingly conflicting approaches to awakening. One says there's nothing you can do. Any effort will just take you away from it. And the other approach says you need to want awakening as a drowning man wants air, otherwise you won't get there. So you have the two. Some teachers will tell you there's nothing you can do, it comes when it comes, just be here now, enjoy yourself. The other says, oh no, you have to work really hard, like the drowning man. And so you get these conflicting viewpoints. But you can put the two together. But the intensity of the drowning man who wants air, or woman, the intensity of the drowning person who wants air can be directed into the now rather than into some idea of future. So you become intensely present now. That means you don't need the future anymore. The intensity moves into the vertical dimension rather than losing itself in the horizontal dimension. So for spiritual seekers, for most spiritual seekers who haven't arrived yet, they may have intensity, or others have no intensity at all, and they fall asleep in front of the TV waiting for enlightenment to happen. So that doesn't work either. Some intensity is necessary, but not the intensity that moves into the future, but the intensity of presence. And when a challenge comes into your life, two things can happen. Either the challenge pulls you into old unconscious reactive patterns, and you start complaining and resisting and fighting and dreadful things happening. Or a challenge can awaken you. So, for example, let's say your stockbroker sends a statement, or your mutual fund sends a statement, you open it and you see your investments have become reduced in value by 65%. You can become unhappy and make up stories in your mind about how difficult your life has now become and how difficult your life is going to be the next few years, and how futile it has been to work so hard and to try and save all that money as a security for the future, and it's all evaporated into nothingness, and how dreadful it all is, and think about it and talk to others about it and feel the corresponding emotions arising in your body. In other words, the challenge has pulled you into unconsciousness, completely lost the now, completely lost the aliveness of now. Or the challenge can awaken you, and you see, oh, you see the figure on the page, oh, that's what it is. And you accept this moment as it is without building stories around it, and become intensely present. So the intensity of, you need to have intensity when a challenge comes, or a challenging person, a very unconscious person trying to drag you into some kind of conflict. Very easy to succumb to that. It happens in politics all the time. One unconscious terrorist pulls the whole administration into unconsciousness. We may talk about that. So, use a challenge to wake you up into that alertness that is so different from the normal state of reactive thinking. absolutely alert in the now. Whenever the mind comes in and creates some form of unhappiness for yourself, because that's how unhappiness is created. Unhappiness is not created from the situation, it's created from what your mind is telling you about the situation. So if you can observe that process in yourself. It's not the situation. The situation is neutral. The mental commentary about your situation, life situation, whatever situation you encounter, the mental commentary is what produces the feeling of unhappiness. The mind judges the situation as not good enough, or is threatened by it, or imagines a future that's not going to be satisfactory, and so on. So it's not the situation, but the mental commentary that creates that unhappiness that is so normal for most people. And they don't realize it, because they confuse what their mind is saying about a situation with the actual situation. It starts with the simplest thing, like saying it's a dreadful day today, because there are drops of water coming from the sky, and it's grey. The sky is grey, and so it's a dreadful day. You've already confused the simplicity of what is with your judgment of what is. So you call the day dreadful. And it's a tiny thing to do, and then of course it flows into almost everything. So you cannot see that everything's the simple isness of the present moment. Always the moment is as it is. The rest you add to it. And to see that the moment always is as it is, there's great power in that. That you don't need to have some kind of reactive relationship with what is. That's superfluous. It's dysfunctional. And this is what every master, every Zen master teaches, that simplicity of being with what is. People try to study Zen, and they go to monasteries and can't figure it out even after 20 years. Why? Because it's too simple. What is now is. That's Zen. Be completely with what is, and you're immediately a Zen master. If you want to be a Zen master, it's a good profession, then just decide that I'll just be with what is every moment. You got it. You're there. You don't need time anymore. No time is needed to be with what is. So here we have the paradox. Now, of course, in this dimension of time, it's very rare that somebody enters that state and never leaves it again. So you might decide as you sit here, okay, I'm going to be a Zen master. From now on, I'm going to be with what is, totally. And I'm not going to add superfluous mind stuff to what is. I'll be with what is, and I'll respond to what is out of presence, out of that alert presence, and it'll be wonderful. No more problems for the rest of my life. Of course, it's true. And so you walk out of here or wherever you are, and then probably before you reach home, a minor challenge will present itself, if only in the form of, it's still raining. It's been raining for days. Why am I living in this climate? Ooh, you're beginning to lose it. The master is no longer a master. Because once you start with that little thought, another one comes about my life. Maybe this thing about the present isn't really working. And so you go, oh, I lost it. I thought I was going to be a Zen master. I have to think of something else. And so you need time. You need time because you lost it, and then you need time to learn to live in such a way, because you continuously lose it. Old patterns, mind patterns come up and take you over again. Habitual mind patterns come up and pull you wherever they want to go. Now, if you had absolute intensity of presence, and it is possible that someone who listens to this, perhaps you, or you, or you okay? Are going to remain present so with such intensity that the old patterns just cannot take you over anymore. Then all you can feel is the old patterns wanting to come in and saying, hi, here, come here. Worry about this, you have to worry about this. And you say, no, I'll just be present with what is. There's no problem now. I'm not going to worry. If I have to think about something practical, then I'll think in a focused way. But I'm not going to be taken over by my mind. Okay, returning to presence. And then there will be another attempt, a little challenge happens in the traffic or wherever. It is this. A driver is like a gust of wind. Why personalize a driver that does something to you? Well, you wouldn't personalize a gust of wind and complain about the gust of wind that pushes your car this way or that way. It just is a natural phenomenon, and so simply you are with what is. If there's an unconscious driver, that's what is. There's no inner self that is complaining about it. You remain present, you remain the master. If you had that intensity, then the mind would never take you over again, and you would have your new career as a spiritual master. Or just be free of unhappiness, and that's enough. But you cannot not be a master and affect everybody around you if you live in that state. Whether you want to or not, it may not be a formal spiritual teacher. You always teach your state of consciousness. If you're unconscious, you teach unconsciousness. And you will pull others into unconsciousness. It happens continuously. So I sometimes use this paradox. You need time to awaken or to be enlightened or to be free. You need time until you realize that you don't need time. As long as you believe you need time, you need time. And then a moment comes when you realize, I don't really need time to be who I am. I am who I am already. I am who I am. The formless essence of who I am cannot change. So time is not needed. The full realization of that might take you time.